Erev Tov, everyone. It is Wednesday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the House of Seven Beggars. Therefore, it must be the Torah study in depth with yours truly, Rabbi A. Good to have you all here. Let's see who we have in the chat room. We have James. James, I see you've been here the last few times. Good to have you with us. Donald Regina, our synagogue president for many years now. Marilyn is with us, and Richard, and more to come. And Marshall has just joined in. Good to have you all here. And those of you who are watching in the background who are not logged in, good to have you here too. Hopefully, someday you'll be able to get into the chat. I know a lot of people who are watch it either on their cell phone or on their tablet can't actually have access to the chat room. We're glad you're here anyway. Okay, so last week we completed Parashat Yitro, and then we went in to catch up with the My Little Midrash says, and tonight we're going to continue on with that, with the Sefer Haggadah, and get caught up there, because we're talking about the Decalogue, the giving of the Ten Commandments, and there is a lot of detail in there, a lot of commentaries by the rabbis, as you would probably expect there to be. So we want to get caught up on that before we Simon is here. Oh, good to have you, Simon. Get caught up on that before we move on to Mishpatim. So let us begin again, because we're talking about the Torah, or the Talmud, and the Mishnah, which actually refers to the Torah. Then we do the blessing for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'sok b'divrei Torah. Okay, so we're going to delve into the giving of the Torah. And it starts with Rabbi Isaac said, Yisrael were worthy of receiving the Torah immediately upon leaving Mitzrayim. But the Holy One said, because of their servitude in clay and bricks, my children look of good health is not yet come back. And therefore they cannot receive the Torah at once. Now we talked about this last week in the little Midrash says, and it talked about that the 3 days that the people had to purify themselves before receiving the Torah was so that they would be healed. There were no sick, no lame, no deaf, no blind among Bnei Israel when the Torah was given. So this kind of goes right along with it. Okay, so their good health has not come back yet, and therefore they cannot receive the Torah at once. God's delay in giving the Torah may be illustrated by the parable of the king's son who had just got up from his sickbed. His tutor said, "Let your son go back to school." The king replied, "My son's look of good health has not yet come back. Yet you say, let him go back to school. Let my son be indulged for 2 or 3 months with good food and drink, so that he may fully recover. Then he can go back to school." Likewise, the Holy One said, my children's look of good health has not yet come back. They have just been released from slaving with clay and bricks. Shall I now give them the Torah? Let my children be indulged for 2 or 3 months with manna, with waters of the well, with the quail. Then I will give them the Torah. Okay. And that comes from Tehuma, from Kitetse. Okay. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said, when Israel left Mitzrayim, there were among them men crippled by heavy labor, for as they worked in clay and bricks, now and then a stone dropped from a structure would break a man's arm or sever his leg. Hence the Holy One said, it is not right that I give the Torah to cripples. What did he do? He beckoned the ministering angels, and they came down and healed them, as we talked about last week. And again, this comes from Tehumah, from Parsha Yitro. As a consequence of Israel's refusal to accept the Torah, Reish Lakish said, why is it written, and there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day? That's from Genesis chapter 1, verse 31. What is the significance of using the definitive article singling out the sixth day? By means of the definitive article shows that the Holy One stipulated with a preceding words of creation, saying of them, if Israel accepts the Torah on the sixth day of Sivan, you will continue to exist. If not, I will return you to desolation and chaos. Okay. I think this actually has another comment in here. Yeah, the definitive article. The preceding days are referred to a second day, a third day, and so on with an indefinite article. Okay, sixth day was referred to by a definitive article. Okay, as if we weren't getting enough grammar and language study from Rashi, now the Talmud is going to give us some more. Okay. As a lily among the thorns, from the Shir HaShirim, chapter 2, verse 2, Rabbi Azariah cited Rabbi Yehuda, son of Rabbi Simon, illustrated the verse by the parable of the king who had an orchard planted with a row of fig trees, a row of grapevines, a row of pomegranate trees, and a row of apple trees. The king turned his orchard over to a keeper and went away. After a while, the king came back and looked into the orchard to see how it had done, and found it overgrown with thorns and thistles. He summoned woodcutters to raise it, but as he looked again at the thorns, he noticed among them a rose-colored lily. He took hold of it and breathed its fragrance, and his spirit was calmed. Then the king said, because of this lily, let the entire orchard be spared. Likewise, the whole world, all of it, was created only for the sake of the Torah. But after 26 generations, when the Holy One looked closely at his world to ascertain what it had done, he found it muddy, water within water. There's actually an extra comment about that, about the, but we'll get to that. Okay, water within water. It's kind of a strange saying, but it actually makes sense when you understand what it's actually talking about. Water within water, the generation of Enosh, water within water, the generation of the flood, water within water, the generation of the dispersed of mankind, water within water. He summoned destroyers to raise the world, but then he noticed there a rose-colored lily, Israel. He took hold of it and breathed its fragrance. He gave Israel the 10 Commandments. When he heard their response, we will do and we will hearken, his spirit was calmed. The Holy One then said, because of a lily, an orchard was spared. Because of Torah and of Israel, let the world be spared. Okay, so we have this thing, water within water. Wicked people in a wicked environment. And then it talks about water within water to go to other parts of Torah and stuff and so forth. Okay. Um, why write so small, guys? Okay, anyway. Um, the Lord came unto Sinai after having first risen at Seir unto the people thereof. Then having shined forth at Paran, he came unto the myriads holy, at his right hand a fiery law for them. When he who is everywhere revealed himself to give the Torah to Israel, he revealed himself not only to Israel, but to all other nations as well. At first, God went to the children of Esau and asked them, "Will you accept the Torah?" They said right to his face, "What is written in it?" He said, "Thou shalt not murder." They replied, "Master of the universe, this goes against our grain. Our father, whose hands are the hands of Esau, led us to rely only on the sword because his father told him, by the sword shalt thou live. We cannot accept the Torah." When he went to the children of Ammon and Moab and asked them, "Will you accept the Torah?" They said right in his face, "What is written in it?" He said, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." They replied, "Master of the universe, our very origin is adultery. For scripture says, thus were both the daughters of Lot, the children by their father. We cannot accept the Torah." He went to the children of Ishmael. He asked them, "Will you accept the Torah?" They said right to his face, "What is written in it?" He said, "Thou shalt not steal." They replied, "Master of the universe, it is our very nature to live off only what is stolen and what is got by assault. Of our forebear Ishmael, it is written, and he shall be a wild ass of a man. His hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him." We cannot accept the Torah. There was not a single nation among the nations to whom God did not go, speak, and, as it were, knock on its door, asking whether it would be willing to accept the Torah. At long last he came to Israel. They said, "We will do and hearken." Of God's successive attempts to give the Torah as is written, the Lord came unto Sinai, having first arisen at Seir unto the peoples thereof, and having shined forth at Paran, he finally came unto the myriads holy, at his right hand a fiery law for them. And that's from Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 2. Yeah, I get it, Marilyn. Yeah. Okay, so let's back up here. The Lord came from, this is additional commentary. The Lord came from Seir and rose from Seir unto them. He shined forth from Paran, and he came from the myriads holy. At his right hand was a fiery law unto them. Here, the commentators attempt to solve the meaning of God's okay, I'm going to attempt this one. You thought my old French was bad? Okay, you're about to hear worse. Peregrinations. Um, he is also baffled by the strange statement that God came from Seir, whereas in truth he came to Seir. Accordingly, the commentator takes the preposition me, usually rendered from, as meaning rather the place or region in which a thing is. The myriads holy are the myriads of Israel. Okay. Okay. Why do you scurry about and contend, ye mountains that are crook-backed? Rabbi Yosef the Galilean said, when the Holy One came to give the Torah to Israel on Sinai, the mountains scurried about, striving with one another, one saying, the Torah should be given on me, and another, it should be given on me. Mount Tabor came to Beth Elim, and Mount Carmel from Apamea. One said, I have been summoned, and another saying, I have been summoned. Finally, the Holy One said, why do you scurry about and contend, ye mountains that are crook-backed? Crook-backed. Think about that term. Okay. Anyway, you are, to be sure, lofty mountains, but you are crook-backed, blemished, since idolatry has been practiced at the top of each of you. But Sinai, idolatry has never been practiced upon it. Sinai is the mountain which God has desired for his abode. Okay, further commentary on that. Why look ye askance, ye mountains of peaks? But in the comment that follows, Teretzedum, look asking, will be construed as pormentu, for roots, runs, scurry, and dun, contend or strive. Okay. Whence did Sinai come? Rabbi Yosef taught out of Mount Moriah, the place where our father Yitzhak had been bound as a sacrifice. Sinai plucked itself as a priest's portion is plucked out of the dough. For the Holy One said, since their father Yitzhak was bound upon this mount, it is fitting that his children receive the Torah upon it. And they stood under the mount. We talked about this last week. Rashi actually commented on this when we were reading about the Decalogue. And they stood under the mountain. Rabbi Avdiim Bar Hama said, the verse implies that the Holy One overturned the mountain upon them like an inverted cask and said to them, if you accept the Torah, it is well. If not, your grave will be right here. Again, and then Rashi did expound on that about how that it had to be, they had to accept the Torah in love and fear. Okay. So, Rabbi Simeon expounded, when Israel hastened to say, we will do before saying, we will hearken, 60 myriads of ministering angels came down and fastened 2 crowns upon each and every one in Israel, one as a reward for saying, we will do, and the other as a reward for saying, we will hearken. But when Israel sinned, 120 myriads of destroying angels came down and removed the crowns, as is said, the children of Israel were stripped of their ornaments from Mount Horeb. Rabbi Eleazar said, when Israel hastened to say, we will do, before saying, we will hearken, a divine voice went forth and exclaimed, who has disclosed to my children this secret, which only the ministering angels make use of? For they are told, bless the Lord, ye angels of his, that do what he saith, and then hearken to the voice of his word. First they are described as doing, and then hearkening, obeying. In other words, rabbis have talked about this. Oh, Abigail has joined us. The rabbis have told us that this actually has a profound meaning. We will do and we will hearken, saying that we will do what you ask us. We'll figure it out later. Okay, you tell us what to do, we will do it, and then we'll ask questions about it later. We'll debate it and we'll write about it, and the rabbis will discuss it and come up with the Mishnah and the Gemara and the Talmud and all the other, the Halakha and so on and so forth, after we actually start to do it. Okay, because you want us to do it, we're going to do it, and then we'll figure it out later. I get so tied up in this stuff, and I start raising my voice, and I start talking louder, and I start talking faster, and yeah, my throat dries out and stuff like that. I just need to learn to slow down a bit, not talk so fast. I have a really bad habit of doing that. If I get excited about a subject, I get loud. Hey, nothing new for you who've been here before. Know that, yeah, the more excited I get, the louder I get. In fact, my wife, many times said, who were you yelling at in there? I wasn't yelling at anybody. I was reading. Okay, so anyway, Rabbi Abihu said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, when the Holy One gave the Torah, no bird chirped, no fowl flew, no ox lowed. Not one of the Ophanim stirred a wing. Not one of the seraphim said, holy, holy, holy. The sea did not roar. Creatures did not speak. The whole world was hushed unto breathless silence. It was then that the voice went forth, Ani Adonai Elohechem, I am the Lord your God. Okay, now there was okay. Ophanim actually is the means wheel angels. Okay, and that comes from Ezekiel. Ezekiel seeing the Mekavah. Okay, and the seraphim are the ones that constantly say holy, holy, holy before Hashem. Okay, so going on, I am the Lord thy God, because the Holy One appeared to them at the Yom Suf as a mighty man waging war, at Sinai as a pedagogue teaching Torah. I would think that would mean a teacher. In the days of Solomon as a young man, and in the days of Daniel as an aged man full of mercy, the Holy One said, because you see me in many guises, do not imagine that there are many gods. For I am he who is with you was with you at the Yom Suf, I am he who was with you at Harsanim. I am the same everywhere. I am the Lord thy God. And again, this is something, every Shabbat while you're here on Shabbat morning, after we do the Musaf Amidah, and we do the Aleinu, and what is the first thing we do after that? The Song of Glory. And the Song of Glory basically says a lot of exactly what it says here. I see you. I see you, though I don't understand you. You know, uh, the prophets and the rabbis and stuff have, allegorized you, but not to your reality. All the allegories, you are unity, so nothing can actually explain all of it. So, what I'm saying, don't think that this is uh, that there are many gods. Just because different people see me or experiencing me in different aspects, that doesn't mean that that is my aspect. It's one of the things that really gets me is when people say, when you're talking about Torah and stuff like that, and you say, oh, that's not my God. My God is a God of love. Well, no, your God is a God of everything. And if you're just saying that he is the God of love and you're only worshiping that, you're worshiping a false idol. Okay? Because he is all. He is the man of war. He is the jealous God. He is the loving God. He is the merciful God. He is all of these things. So don't say, my God is a God of love. He wouldn't do that to people. He's a God of love. Yeah, he would do that to people. But yes, he is a God of love. But yes, he's also a jealous God, and he is also a warrior. So, okay. So, we go on. His mouth is most sweet. It is said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, the moment Israel at Sinai heard the word I, their souls left them, as is written, my soul left me when he spoke. Again from the Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs. At once the word returned to the Holy One and said, Master of the universe, you are ever alive and enduring. The Torah is ever alive and enduring, yet you are sending me to the dead. They are all dead. So for Israel's sake, the Holy One went back and sweetened, made soft, the word, as is said, the voice of the Lord is powerful, the voice of the Lord is stately, which, as Rabbi Huma bar Hanina explained, means that the voice of the Lord was powerful for young men and had measured steadiness for the aged. In agreement with Rabbi Huma bar Hanina, Rabbi Levi said, had it been written, the voice of the Lord is in his strength, the world could not have stood it. Hence, scripture says, the voice of the Lord is fitted to the strength. That's from Tehillah 29. That is to say, the strength of each and every person, the young according to their strength, the aged according to their strength, the little ones according to their strength, the suckling according to their strength, the women according to their strength. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, which we have coming up, which is coming up day after tomorrow. The Lag BaOmer, right? Lag BaOmer, and what happened on Lag BaOmer? Lag BaOmer was the day that the plague stopped among Rabbi Akiva's students. It was also the day that his one lone student survived, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. It is also the day that many years later, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai passed away, calling it the day of his greatest joy. Hence, why we have a celebration on that day. And and there's you know it's really kind of an odd thing that that in Israel, I mean, it's a day of celebration. People go out and picnic and uh, have bonfires. Like, I mean, if you want to really say a bonfire, and they will be broadcasting it live. They do it every year. From Meron, where Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai is, his kever is, uh, they have this mammoth bonfire and they will broadcast it. So if you have the opportunity, please check it out. It's absolutely amazing. But one of the things that they do, which I find really strange, is they basically play cowboys and Indians, and they play around with toy bows and arrows. Uh, and I was watching a video of one of the Kabbalists, one of the chief students of Rabbi Kaduri from last year at Meron, playing with this little toy bow and arrow. It's just it just astounds me, that what is the reason for this? Why did they do that? Why did they pick the bow and arrow? And why, of all places in the Middle East, would they play cowboys and Indians? I don't know. But I would certainly like to find out. Okay, so anyway, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, however, taught the Torah that the Holy One gave to Israel was the one who helped restore their souls to them. She pleaded before the Holy One for mercy on their behalf, saying, "Is there a king who gives his daughter in marriage and slays the courtier whom she is to wed? The entire world rejoices for my sake, yet your children, Israel, to whom I am being given, are dying." At that, the souls return. The law of the Lord is perfect, it restores the soul. Right? Tehillah 19. Okay, we read it almost every day. Okay. Um, Another expression of his mouth is most sweet. Again, from the Shir HaShirim. The Holy One was like a king who spoke so harshly to his son that the latter, the son, fell into a faint. When the king saw that he had fainted, he began to hug him, kiss him, and speak softly to him, saying, "What is it with you? You are not my. Are you not my only son? Am I not your father?" So too, as soon as the Holy One said, "I am the Lord thy God," then and there Israel's souls left them. When they died, the angels began to hug and kiss them, saying to them, "What is this with you? Be not afraid. Ye are children of the Lord your God." At the same time, the Holy One repeated the word softly for their sake, as he said, are you not my children, even as I am Lord, the Lord your God? You are my people. You are beloved unto me. He kept saying gently to them until their souls returned. Okay, so literally, the voice of the Lord is its strength, is a deviation from the normal syntax, which would require a suffix of the appropriate personal pronoun. Yaakov lifted his feet. not simply lifted feet. Whenever the part or an attribute of the body is mentioned. Okay, I'll go with that. Okay. Uh, I really don't care how you learned your French, Marilyn. It's just that you know enough of it to know that I am absolutely massacring it. So there you go. Okay, so moving on. Check the time, make sure that we don't go over our break. Uh, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Yaakov, that is to the women, meaning that God said to Moshe, tell them those essentials that they can understand, and tell the children of Israel that is the men, meaning you may tell them also specific details of precepts which they, unlike women, can understand. I find this kind of odd because the rabbis did understand that women have a closer attachment to Hashem than men do. Men have to experience those things. We have to study. We have to have the laws and know the laws and study them and study the Torah, where a woman just naturally has it and understands it because she has a closer attachment to the upper realms than the men do. But then again, that's why we are here. Us men are here because we need to learn, and this is actually part of the uh, the way the world has to be. Somebody has to be the one who studies. Somebody has to be the one who already gets it. Okay, so anyway, another explanation, why did Hashem mention the woman first? Because they are prompt in fulfilling commandments. Still another explanation, in order that they might lead their children to study the Torah. Okay, who is it that gets the kids ready and says make sure they get to Hebrew school or yeshiva or stuff like that? It's the mothers. Okay. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said, with each and every word that issued from the mouth of the Holy One, the entire world, all of it, was filled with the fragrance of spices. But if the first word filled the world, where did the fragrance of the second word go? Out of his treasuries, the Holy One brought forth a wind which carried each fragrance along in orderly succession. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said also, at each and every word that issued from the mouth of the Holy One, the souls of Israel departed, as it said, my soul departs when he spoke. Again, from Shir HaShirim. But if their souls depart at the first word, how could they receive the next word? He brought down the dew with which he will in time resurrect the dead and restore Israel to life. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said further, at each and every word that issues from the mouth of the Holy One, the Israelites recoiled a distance of 12 mil. Okay, and as I understand it, it takes about 40 minutes to travel a mil. Let's see if it actually explains it here. Okay, a mil. Okay, I might be wrong. Maybe it takes that long to get there and to go there and get back a mil. Anyway, this all has to do with the baking of matzah. From the time that the water is introduced into the matzah and it is worked, there is a in the Talmud it says that You can work it for about the period of a time it takes to walk. I think it's a mill or so many mil. I can't remember exactly what it was. But anyway, a mill is about 1,620 yards. Okay, so um, okay. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said further, each and every word that issued from the mouth of the Holy One and the Israelites recoiled a distance of 12 mil. It's a long way. And the angels moved from the back to Sinai and said, hosts of angels flee, they flee. Read not Yidonum, they flee, but Yidal Yidadum, they move. Okay, I don't really see that much of a difference, but Rabbi Hanina, son of Rabbi Yehushua's brother, said, just as in the sea, there are ripples and wavelets between each major wave. So, between each of the Ten Commandments, there were Torah's unwritten minute. How about that? I got one. Minute, as well as all of the Torah's letters. Okay. Further commentary on that says this is all the details of the oral law, as well as the 613 precepts. Okay, or mitzvot, 613 mitzvot. And as we know, as Marilyn knows very well, that there are 365 negative mitzvot and 248 positive mitzvot. Okay. So, just catching up on the chat room. Okay, so where were we? Okay. For who are those? Let me check the time here. For who is there of all flesh that hath heard the voice of the living God speaking out of the midst of the fire as we have and lived? And that's from Deuteronomy chapter 5. Come and see how the voice went forth to all Israel, to each and every one in keeping with his particular capacity, to the elderly in keeping with their capacity, to young men in keeping with their capacity, to the little ones in keeping with their capacity, and to the women keeping with their capacity. Rabbi Yoshe ben Hanina said, if you are astounded at such an assertion, then draw the relevant inference from the manna which came down for Israel, varying in taste, in keeping with each Israel's particular needs. A young man, it tastes like bread. To an elderly, it tastes like wafers made with honey. To suckling, it tastes like milk from their mother's breasts. To the sick, it tastes like fine flour mixed with milk, mingled with honey. While for the heathen, it tastes as bitter as linseed. Now, if manna, which is all of the same kind, changed into so many kinds to provide for particular needs of each individual, was it not possible for the voice, in which there is such divine strength, to vary according to the capacity of each individual, so that no harm should befall him? Hence, Job said, God thunders marvelously with his voice. And that's from Job 37. Okay, so we are at about our halfway point. We are about at our halfway point in the Haggadah. So we're going to go ahead and take our break, and when we return, we will continue on. with the rest of this. It looks like this is going to probably be it, and then next week we'll actually start on Parashat Mishpatim. So we'll take our break, and we will be back in 6. Stay tuned.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And we are back. Okay, so we're going to continue on with the Sefer Haggadah. So, at Sinai, when the Holy One gave the Torah to Israel, he manifested marvels upon marvels for Israel with his voice. How so? As the Holy One spoke, the voice reverberated throughout the world. At first, Israel heard the voice coming to them from the south. And as it regards that, when facing east, the south is on the right side, and where the Torah, right side where the Torah was given. Hence, the commentator begins with the south. Okay, so they heard the voice coming to them from the south. So they ran to the south to meet the voice there. It shifted to the north, so they ran to the north. Then it shifted to the east, so they ran to the east. But from the east, it shifted to the west, so they ran to the west. Next, it shifted to heaven. But when they raised their eyes towards heaven, it seemed to rise out of the earth. Hence Israel asked one another, "But wisdom, where shall it be found? And where is the place of understanding?" And again, from Eov. And all of the people perceived the thunderings. Hence, there was only one voice. Why thunderings in the plural? Because God's voice mutated into 7 voices, and the 7 voices into 70 languages, so that all the nations might hear it. Okay, and then the further commentary on this one says that this all these words. Where was it? Oh, the Torah is intended for all nations. It is not to remain Israel's sole prerogative. Okay, that will come about in the time of Mashiach. Okay. Continuing on, Rabbi Yochanan asked, what is implied in the Lord gave the word? Great was the company of those that published it. Again from Tehillah 68. That each and every word that issued from the mouth of the Almighty divided itself into 70 languages. Accordingly, citing the verse as a hammer that breaketh the rock in pieces from Yirmiyahu, the school of Rabbi Yishmael taught, just as a hammer that strikes a rock causes sparks to fly off in all directions, so each and every word that issued from the mouth of the Holy One divided itself into 70 languages. Rabbi Yochanan said also, each and every word that issued from the Holy One was transmuted into 70 languages. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said, as when a man strikes an anvil and causes sparks, to fly off in all directions. Rabbi Yosef ben Hanina said, as when a man strikes a rock with a hammer, causing chips to fly off in all directions, so too did the great company of those that published it. It is taught, remember and observe were spoken in one utterance, something that is beyond the human mouth to articulate or the human ear to absorb. So in the commentary, the additional commentary on this says that in Exodus chapter 20, the fourth commandment begins with the words, remember the Sabbath day. Whereas in Deuteronomy, it begins with observe. Okay. Again, remember and observe. And some say that that's the reason why we light 2 candles on Shabbat. One to remember and one to observe. And God spoke all these words saying, from Exodus chapter 20, verse 1. God can do all kinds of things at one and the same time. He can put to death and bring to life at one and the same time. He can wound and heal at one and the same time. If there is a woman giving birth, people going down to the sea, traveling through deserts, or kept in prisons, though one is in the east and another in the west, one in the north and another in the south, he can hear them all at the same time. And God spoke all these words, saying, again from Exodus 20, verse 1. Rabbi Isaac said, at Har Sinai, the prophets of each and every generation received what they were to prophesy. For Moshe told Israel, but with him that standeth here with us this day before the Lord our God, and also him that is not here with us this day. He did not say that is not standing here with us this day, but that is not here with us this day. A way of referencing to souls that are destined to be created, because as these have no substance, Moshe did not use the word standing for them. Still, even though they did not yet exist, each one received his share of the Torah. Nor were the future prophets and the only ones who received at Sinai the prophecies they were to utter. The sages who were to rise in each and every generation, each and every one of them also received at Sinai the wisdom that he was to utter. Okay, it says that we were all there at Sinai that day. Okay, it's just that some of them, like the prophets, got the words that they were to prophesy and so on and so forth on that day. But we all were there that day. Hence why in the when in Exodus, and it tells us about when we observe the Pesach, it says, you shall tell them, that this is what the Lord did for me when I went out of Mitzrayim. Because we all went out of Mitzrayim at that time. We all were given the Torah at that time. Okay. When the Holy One gave the Torah to Israel, his voice traveled from one end of the world to the other, and their places, all kings and nations, were seized with trembling. Yet they were constrained to chant a song in praise of God. All of them gathered themselves about the wicked Baalam, and asked, "What is this loud tumult we hear? Is another flood coming upon the world?" Balaam replied, "The Holy One has already sworn that he will not bring another flood upon the world." Perhaps they asked further, "He will bring not a flood of water, but a flood of fire." Balaam reassured them, "He has already sworn that he would not destroy all flesh." "What then," they asked, "is this loud tumult that we hear?" Balaam replied, "The Holy One has a precious thing in his treasury that had been stored with him 974 generations before the world was created. And now he wishes to give it to his children, as is said, 'The Lord giveth strength to his people.' The kings and all the nations and all as one immediately exclaimed, 'May the Lord bless his people with peace.'" And the further commentary on that says that the Torah was to have been given at the end of 1,000 generations, but God advanced the time and gave it during the 26th generation from Adom. Okay. As soon as Israel accepted the Torah, the Holy One invested with them some of the splendor of his own majesty. What precisely did he invest with them? Crowns, according to Rabbi Yochanan; weapons, according to Rabbi Simon ben Yochai, upon which God's explicit name was engraved. As long as these weapons were in their hands, the angel of death had no power over them. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi taught, when Moshe went up on high, the ministering angels dared to say to the Holy One, "Master of the universe, what business does one born of woman have in our midst?" God replied, "He came to receive the Torah." They argued, "This precious thing, which has been stored with you for 974 generations before the world was created, you are about to give to mere flesh and blood? O Lord, our Lord, how glorious is thy name in all the earth. Let thy majesty continue to be celebrated above the heavens. What is man that thou should be mindful of him, and the Son of Man that thou should think of him?" From Tehillah 8. Then the Holy One said to Moshe, "Let you be the one to reply to the ministering angels." Moshe spoke right up. "Master of the universe, I fear that they will consume me with the fiery breath of their mouths." God said, "Take hold of my throne of my glory and reply to them." Moshe spoke up again. "The Torah that you are about to give me, what is written in it?" "I am the Lord thy God that brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim." Then turning to the angels, he asked, "Did you go down to Mitzrayim? Were you enslaved to Pharaoh? What need have you for the Torah? What else is written in it? Ye shall have no gods that others worship. Do you live among nations that worship idols? What else is written in it? Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Are there business dealings among you that might lead you to swear a false oath? What else is written in it? Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Do you do the kind of work that requires you to rest? What else is written in it? Honor thy father and thy mother. Do you have a father or a mother? What else is written in it? Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Is there rivalry among you? Is that impulse to evil within you? At that, the angels conceded to the Holy One, for at the psalm's end, they said once more, O Lord, our Lord, how glorious is thy name in all the earth. Although they did not add, as before, let thy majesty continue to be celebrated above the heavens. Then each of the angels came to be favorably disposed towards Moshe, and gave him uh, a token of his favor, as is implied by what was said to him. Thou hast ascended on high, thou hast taken the prize of Torah, thou hast received gifts to compensate for the angels calling thee, a death or a mere man or a groundling, from Tehillah 68. Every angel of death turned over his secret to Moshe, for later, after the plague had begun, it is said of Moshe that he told Aharon to put on the incense and make atonement for the people. And scripture goes on to say, and he stood between those who were about to die and those who were to remain alive. How would Moshe have been able to distinguish between the two, had not the angel of death made him a gift of this secret? Interesting. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said the Torah given to Moshe was written with black fire upon white fire, sealed with fire, and swathed with bands of fire. While writing it, Moshe wiped off his reed on his hair, thus received the radiance that was to emanate from his countenance. Hence why Moshe had to wear the veil after he came down, because his face was radiant and the people were afraid. So he wore a veil in front of his face, and then when he went in to speak with God, he would take the veil off, and when he was done speaking with God, he would come out and put the veil back on, which is actually, this is also a concept that we actually have in the Kabbalist text, which talks about that we are born into this existence with a veil in front of our eyes, because the soul has the knowledge of everything. However, we have to live in this world. We have things that we are to accomplish in this world. So a veil is put over our eyes, and said if that veil were to be removed from us, and we were to see the world for what it truly is, we would walk around in such a constant state of amazement that we would not be able to function at this level. Okay, moving on. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said, after Moshe had come down from the Holy One's presence, Satan appeared and asked him bluntly, Master of the universe, where is the Torah? He answered, I gave it to the earth. Satan went to the earth and asked, where is the Torah? The earth replied, God understandeth the way thereof, and he knoweth the place thereof. When he went to the sea, which replied, it is not with me. Finally, he went to the deep under the earth, which replied, it is not in me. So he returned and said to the Holy One, Master of the universe, I searched for it throughout the world, but did not find it. God said, go to the son of Amram. Satan went to Moshe and asked, where is the Torah the Holy One gave you? Moshe replied, Who am I that the Holy One should give the Torah to me? The Holy One asked, Moshe, are you a liar? Moshe replied, Master of the universe, you had hidden away a precious thing in which you took delight every day. Shall I now claim credit for myself about it? The Holy One said to Moshe, since you make so little of yourself, the Torah shall be called by your name. Remember ye the Torah of Moshe, my servant, which comes from Malachi, chapter 3, verse 22. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said also, when Moshe went up on high and he found the Holy One busy joining crowns to the letters of the Torah, and if you actually look at the Sefer Torah, and you will see that certain letters have these little things on the top, which they are called crowns. Went up on high and found the Holy One busy joining crowns to the letters of the Torah, and Moshe remained respectfully silent. Finally, God asked, Moshe, where you come from? Were you not taught to extend greeting? Moshe replied, may a servant presume to greet his master? Nevertheless, said God, you should have encouraged me by saying something. Presently, during a later ascent, Moshe cried out without being reminded, may the power of the Lord increase. Then he added, is not this what you told me to do? From Numbers chapter 14. So Rabbi Hanina ben Agil asked Rabbi Chaya, son of Rabbi Abba, why does it say in the first verse of the Ten Commandments that it may go well with thee, when in the second version there is such a promise? He replied, before asking me why, that it may go well with you, with thee, is not mentioned in the first version. You should ask me whether such a promise does or does not occur in the second version, later on in the Torah. The fact is, I do not know whether it occurs or not. Go to Rabbi Tanhum bar Haniel, who visits regularly with Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, an expert in Agidah, which we are reading right now. When he went to him, Rabbi Tanhum said, from Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, as it happens, I never heard anything on this matter. But Samuel bar Nahum told me, because the tablets containing the commandments, first version, were destined to be broken, the promise of well-being does not occur in them. But even if they were destined to be broken, how would that eventually affect the promise of well-being? Rabbi Ashi explained, well-being would then, God forbid, have been altogether, would have altogether ceased in Israel. Further commentary on that says, had the promise of well-being been inserted into the first version of the Ten Commandments, such well-being might have ceased altogether after the tablets containing the version were broken. This also goes to the four-pronged shin you may have heard of, which is actually on our tefillin. Says that because of the sin of the golden calf and the breaking of the first set of tablets, that the four-pronged shin was removed from us. Okay. In the way of the world, when a king of flesh and blood issues a decree, it may or may not be obeyed, and even if you find that it is obeyed, it may be so only while he is living, but not after his death. However, Moshe, our teacher, issued many decrees and introduced many enactments, and these abide forever and ever and ever. Come and see the way of the Holy One is not the way of human beings. The way of human beings, when he sells a valuable object to his fellow, the seller grieves while the buyer rejoices. Not so the Holy One. When he gave up the Torah to Israel, he replied, I have given you a good purchase. Forsake not my teaching. And finally, because we don't want to get ahead of Mishpatim, a certain Galilean expounded in the presence of Rabbi Hisda, blessed is he who is everywhere, who has given the threefold Torah to a threefold people through a third born on the third day in the third month. How about that? Okay, so let's go to the further commentary on this, which starts at, okay, the prophets and the writings, and that would be the threefold Torah. The threefold people. Israel was made up of priests, Leviim, and Israelites. Through a third born. Moshe was born after Aharon and Miriam. And on the third day, after separation from their wives, and in the third month, which is the month of Sivan. So there you go. A very interesting observation that a threefold Torah, a threefold people, through a third born, on the third day, in the third month. How amazing, huh? Okay. I think we are going to stop here. I don't want to start Mishpatim and only be able to go a few minutes into it. So we'll end a few minutes early tonight. Tomorrow, please raise Tehillim for Rabbi Ansel, who will be having the second and more serious cataract surgery tomorrow on his I think the right eye, I believe, which is giving him the most trouble. It's actually, he's got a lot of pressure in there, and they're thinking that the cataract surgery will relieve the pressure for him. He is, as is anybody who's going in for a surgery, he's a little concerned. So please remember him in your prayers. Remember him for good and for refuah shlema. Say a tehillim for him tomorrow, and hopefully, again, and that was why we weren't here on Monday night. The pressure in his eye that does not have surgery of yet had gotten so bad that he had a really bad headache, and he wasn't able to, study with us on Monday night, so we ended up canceling it because I didn't want to get ahead of him. Because we have some really great shows, really great discussions planned, and I don't want to jump the gun on him. So we canceled for Monday. Hopefully, if everything goes well on his surgery tomorrow, that he will be back, and we will have the old rabbis discuss on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then back here on Wednesday for where we'll pick up with the Parsha Mishpatim. And don't forget that on Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern is the Kabbalat and Ma'ariv Shabbat service. And then on Shabbat morning at 10 a.m. is Shachrit and Musaf. Also, do not forget to count the Omer, which I hope you have been able to keep up with, because we are now more than halfway through the counting of the Omer. And we have the Lag BaOmer coming up on starting after sundown on Thursday, and a great day to celebrate because at that point all the restrictions of Lag BaOmer, not listening to music, not buying new things, and so on and so forth, are lifted. Because a festival automatically ends any kind of a mourning period. So have a good time, enjoy it. We will see you, hopefully, see you in shul on Friday. Until then, everyone, we will just simply say, Laila Tov.